Hello, hello, hello. So welcome to another slice of life. You know these are Dollar Tree sunglasses. I love these things. I like them. So I just put them on for my own something something, Anyway, this is the journey continues, slice of life, and I always give you a little something, about my wait a minute, my CG and C and G and all that. But let me tell you what I did learn. I did sit here long enough to be able to take myself through. Something happened today. Something I didn't know. I felt your heart met mine, and I knew for sure. Look at that. I can do the whole song, but that's not why we're here. You're keeping up with me a little bit with the C major. I'm so proud of my four chords that I have learned, and I've learned to do it in one hand. How about that? How about that? Yes, but I'm not ready to show you yet. But I'm working on that. The next time we're going to do that. The next time we're going to do them. All of it's one hand anyway, but for the real musicians out there, I take it, I stay right, I don't move past the C, I don't move past there when I get ready to go from the C major to G major to A minor to F major. I stay right in these few keys right here. The last time I was going up and down, I would go C, da 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 da. I don't do that anymore. But anyway, when you left me last, we were on the east side, still on the east side of Gary, Indiana. And I'm 12, I think, as we talk about a slice of life. The journey continues. And I had something to tell you about not crossing Broadway. I wasn't ready to cross Broadway. So Broadway was the street that divided the east side from the west side in Gary, Indiana. And so, on Broadway, you could find your major stores, shopping. We would walk to the Palace Theater. And I think at one time, maybe the Palace was segregated. I don't know. But when I came along, whatever segregation there was, I missed it. But I heard it existed. And the remnants of it was when I told you I got off the bus to go see my paternal grandparents, and there was nobody else black on the bus because they crossed over into Glen Park. Remember, that was part one. Part two, this is part three. But let me just stay on the east side. I need to bring up something. And I need the Adele Williams people to help me with this, because I thought it was down by where you all live. But let's talk about voting. People voted. It was a big deal to vote because my grandmother and my mother, I think black people were Republicans then. And I remember, so help me somebody, there was a table down by where the Williams lived. There must be a voting precinct was there. And let me see, it was a voting precinct was there. And the table sat on the street, and my mother and my grandmother worked at that table. So now I think about where they sit, okay, because I can't remember. So were they sitting at a table in front of a precinct? Question one. I don't know. I'm just a kid, remember? Were they working the precinct in terms of maybe they represented somebody? I don't know. I'm just a kid. Or was that the polling and they were poll workers? I guess I have to go back to the 50s, in fact, but I thought it was down by the Williams house. The Williams lived in an apartment down there, just up the street a little bit. And so it just came to my mind that it was a big deal to vote. People voted. You see, so when you grow up as a kid and people voted, then you come down south and you hear in the south that people don't vote, can't vote. They're getting shot and killed to vote. You can see how I got excited when I arrived at Spelman to try to make something happen. But we're still on the east side of Gary, Indiana. So we're going to cross Broadway. Oh, I talked about Broadway. So you went to Broadway. let me tell you about going to Broadway. Broadway was like between where my Glen Park Railroad track and maybe the railroad track was Glen Park. I think there were railroad tracks down by 11th or 10th. There were railroad tracks. So in between those railroad tracks, you could find a body of black and white people, but predominantly black, I think, at the time that I can remember. What was fun about going to Broadway? You would not believe it. Broadway at night was the best place to be. Now, if you went to the club, I knew there was a club on 17th and Broadway. The adults went there. And there was another club down by 19th that I couldn't wait to go to. And my mother couldn't wait to introduce me to it, not because she wanted me to go to a club, but one of her friends owned the club. And so she wanted me to go in and see what they owned. But as a kid, you went to Broadway and you sat in the car. You went to a place called Igloo and you got some ice cream. Now, the Igloo, that was the name of the ice cream place. And you sat in the car and the grown-ups all knew each other. And they talked, they walked back and forth. It was just so much fun as a kid to go sit in the car. I sat in the car, and I watched people watching. People watching was a big deal. And people got dressed up to go up there. They did. Because there was maybe a Saturday night or Friday night. I don't know. Maybe in the South there was a juke joint. I don't know. But the concrete streets of Gary, Indiana on Broadway was somewhere where I remember as a kid going and sitting in the back of the car and watching the adults laughing and talking and eating my ice cream. And I don't know, that wasn't a big deal, but that was the culture that I knew. That was my fun thing for the adults, because maybe they didn't have a babysitter. Oh, I gotta give you this story. I love Faustina James. I love Faustina. I love James Henderson. Faustina Henderson. Yeah. Faustina and James. These are my cousins. You're talking about beautiful people. The Henderson family, oh my God, they were just gorgeous people. So my mother told me that don't let anybody in. I'm still on the east side. I'm in the apartment. You had to come up 3 flights. We were on the top floor, 3 stories high. And my cousin Faustina came, and she was walking to see my mother, Georgia, because I'm Georgian, my mother was Georgia. And so she knocked on the door and said, Georgia? And I was there by myself. And I said, I looked out, and it was Faustina. Oh, I loved her dearly. But my mother told me that I couldn't let anybody in. And Faustina said, it's me. And I said, my mother would give me a whooping. Let me tell you, my mother had some whoopings that they were memorable. And she said, don't let anybody in. She didn't give me a list of people that it was okay to let in, because all I could hear her say was, didn't I tell you not to let anybody in? And so Faustina was so upset. She said, I walked all the way over here. I don't know where she walked from, but she had to walk back. And she walked up those 3 flights of stairs. And then my mother said, later, you could have let Faustina in. Well, that's not what you said. You told me don't let anybody in. I didn't want that whooping. So there's some little funny stories like that. Faustina was so outdone with me. But you all know when your mama said, right now. Alvin can tell you some stories. It's some stories that you all can tell yourselves, your youngins, your grandchildren about what mama said. That was law. It was something else I want to talk about. In the apartment where we lived, there was a room for me, because I was the only child, remember? A room for my mother and my father, and then my mother and her new husband. And